How did you start your journey at sea?
It was 99, and at that point, just because everyone else was doing it, I said, okay, this is something that I don't want to do. Isolation is tough, and I think any place where you leave your family for the first time and go away, when you go in a real environment, you start from zero.
Did you get nightmares also? It's a challenge.
Scary. It's like, you feel so helpless.
Did you face any emergency situation?
I think there was one time in the Pacific where I think it was Katrina or some storm that was there, and everything which is not tied down is just moving all across the deck. In emergency scenarios, you can never predict how anybody will respond. In the middle of the night, 2 a.m., the alarm rings. You don't know whether it's a real fire or what it is. But at that time, I was like, I got this. I was born for this.
Did you save the lifeboat itself?
Slowly, the lifeboat went down and touched the water, and then it was bouncing with the waves. Because if you forget to give that stop in movement, the ship is going straight into the breakwater.
How do you build network?
Building network is not rocket science. In our country, maritime education has been the same for a long time.
People are scared of automation.
The biggest challenge on board ships is the lesser number of crew.
Do seafarers hold on to a lot because they're very introverts?
I think so, because I didn't realize that it was building up on me. I started feeling numbness on my fingers and my toes, and I googled it, and first result was something very serious.
Welcome to the KSN show. I'm starting something new, and this is the very first episode in which we have a veteran captain who is not just a seafarer but the managing director of one of the biggest companies in the world. So he's going to share knowledge on how we as aspirants can transition from ship to shore, and for those who want to join the merchant navy, what are the recruiters looking at, what technical skills, what is the knowledge which is required. Everything is covered in this, and I think you guys will love this particular episode. So don't forget to watch it till the end. Captain Karan Kochhar, it's an honor for me to have you as the very first guest on this KSN show. Now, I have known you since 5 years, but I want you to guide us, the audience, through how, as a young boy, in 17 and 18 like a cadet, and to this particular position have you reached here? So
firstly, Karan, thank you for having me. It's an honor for me to be here with you. I've been hearing about you, seeing your videos and your content for so long, and Karan, I have to tell you that the impact that you are having on the future generation of seafarers, I don't know whether you realize how big an impact. Whenever I go to our colleges, meet students, I always ask them, what made you choose this career? And every second one is saying, Karanvir.
It's a good thing, I hope.
It's a really great thing. I think what you managed to do with portraying our industry from your lenses is really unique, and really thank you for doing that, and making the industry a lot more.
Let me tell you, sir, it's all thanks to you all to get us that support to put forward the operational part, suppose, of the industry. My aim was basically for the cadets, but now my aim is to bring people like you who are the backbone, to come forward and speak and share with us your journey and your learnings for the youngsters, and how they can propel their career from a seafaring background to a shore-based background. So coming to that point, sir, how did you start your journey at sea?
So this is going back to school, right? Yes. And this was a long time ago. And it was 99 when I finished school. Now I feel really old, but it was 99. And at that point, all my classmates and everybody all around, they were all doing IIT, JEE preparation. Everybody, engineering was the thing for science students to get into. And just because everyone else was doing it, I said, okay, this is something that I don't want to do. Another thing, I was never a great student. I was, did decently well. I got good score in 12th.
You're from the army background, sir?
My father was in the Navy.
Navy. Okay.
So I grew up all around India in various port cities: Cochin, Visakhapatnam, Bombay, Delhi.
So just a funny thing I remembered. When you try to, when someone tries to ask you where are you from, like your location, is it a problem you also face? Like being me, I'm like you said, from so many dimensions, so many cities. Where am I from? So I said I'm just from India. So what do you say?
That has been a challenge throughout, because being nomadic, you don't belong to one particular place.
Right.
But now if people say where are you from, I say from the north, because it's more generic.
Absolutely, sir.
But coming back to, why I chose Merchant Navy, at that point, honestly, at 17, 18 years old, you really don't know much about the world. And this was something that was offering me something different. You get to travel the world. At that point, our pre-sea training was really short. So, after a short period of training, you're going on board a ship. My father was working in Indian Navy ships, so I'd seen ships growing up. I was always fascinated by the, machinery, the equipment, going out into the ocean.
Right.
And, interesting fact, even before I joined the Merchant Navy, sailing with my father in the Navy. There's family days. Once in a year they have family day where you can go on board and sail. All families are invited on board. And so the funny part is that I was very seasick. And despite being severely seasick, I still chose this career.
Wow.
And throughout my sailing career, I was always seasick. It became better.
Wow.
I learned how to manage it.
So how did you do that? Because so many young boys and girls ask me, they have that fear of the seasickness. How did you tackle it on ground, like on the ship?
Initially, when I went on board as a cadet, everybody on the ship had an idea that you drink this juice or you take this pill,
lime or orange.
All kinds of things I tried, and nothing really worked. There's some pressure points and all that. But over time, I got used to it to a point where it was like if I'm on the bridge and the weather's getting rough, I know that I'm going to get sick, and I realized that now in the next 2 hours or so I'll need to go to the washroom, and
did the captain send you to the forecastle to stand there?
100%. Forecastle, the crow's nest, everywhere.
Can you tell, because you were also a master, what was that concept all about, going in front of the forecastle? Did you do that?
I never did that to anyone, but I think it's about just getting some fresh air, and that really helps actually when you're feeling seasick. Getting some fresh air, breeze blowing on your face, that is helpful. But over time it became normal thing. So it's like going to the washroom to take a pee break. It was like that for me. So it was never, I was still sick, but it was never inhibiting my work or my thinking that way.
So like students should not get scared even if they are seasick. You get over it, right? That's what you experience.
You learn to manage it, and you, as you sail more and more, as you be on ships more and more, you get more and more resilient.
Right.
So say after a couple of years, it's only this really bad weather where you
get shaken up.
Yeah.
I think for a normal person who doesn't feel seasickness, I too feel that you cannot sleep. Did you had that same problem that if you're lying down in a vertical position to the according to the ship's fore and aft, then you can't sleep? Right?
You know how it is on board. You find ways to wedge yourself between pillows and the bulkhead, and you find a sweet spot. Sometimes that's not on the bed. Sometimes that's on the sofa. But you find a spot, and then you manage it. You get used to it, and I think the ship's vibration helps you.
Right, sir. Like the first cadet ship when you were on board, I'm sure you were saying you were seasick, and you must be also feeling like isolated all of a sudden. Yes, you were with your father for sailing days, but that was with the family, right?
Yes.
Now you are alone in a workplace where there is just work and colleagues and not kind of a friendship kind of a bond as yet. So how did you tackle those periods of boredom and isolation?
When the first ship I joined, incidentally, even though it was a foreign shipping company, my first ship I joined from Mumbai port.
Oh, wow.
So I had my family and everyone come to see me off, and then when the ship left boat, as soon as you give away the last line and start moving, the ship was like starts moving slightly, very slightly, and I was like, oh, rolling pitching, this is it, I'm experiencing it. Yes. Little did I know much later that that was nothing. But I think firstly, boredom and isolation is not really I don't feel it's a problem. Yes, you're away from your family,
right,
but it's not like on the ship you're twiddling thumbs and got nothing to do, right? There is a very fixed routine that you follow throughout throughout your day, that you don't really have time to get bored,
right?
And so I never had that challenge of boredom. Isolation is tough, and I think that's tough for any place where you leave your family for the first time and go away, and you have people around, and you make friendships, you make bonds.
How did you do it? Like, did you have like a favorite person on board who used to go and approach to, like, talk it out?
I had a senior cadet on board who used to, and at that point, everything the senior cadet tells you, because you know nothing, right? When you go on board, even though you go after studies, when you go in a real environment, you start from zero.
Absolutely, sir.
And everything that senior cadet tells you is like gospel.
That's the gospel, yeah.
And so he was really helpful and guided me.
Right.
But, there are always some people who are kind of strict and more difficult, but you'll always find, maybe the second mate or the third mate is more sympathetic.
Right.
So you kind of,
make a friendship.
It's very important to speak up.
Right.
It's important to share your feelings, your thoughts with, the people around you, so that, you don't feel alone.
Right. So, like from the first cadetship to becoming an officer, how was that transition? How did it change your perspective, like from a cadet life? Because cadet life is no responsibilities, nothing. You're trying to learn, yet you're trying to enjoy. But the first sail as a third mate, how was your watch, the first watch?
I think that's a very good question, because, like even as a cadet, you prepare, right? You know everything. You're on the bridge, the chart work, the equipment, everything. And it's the same thing when you become a chief mate for the first time, or when you become the captain for the first time. You know everything, but it is the first time when you step into those shoes that you have that responsibility on you. And there is nothing you can do to prepare for that feeling. And that's something that you just have to go through. And, I remember the first time I was on the bridge, I was holding on to the, autopilot over here, and, as tight as I can, like that will make a difference. But again, it's important to communicate. And if you're not confident about something, talk to your superior, talk to the captain, and tell them what you're not confident about. And the golden rule on board is, if in doubt, call the master.
Call the master, right. Did you get nightmares also sometimes, like during the China coasting? I'm sure you must have gone there, and during fishing season.
Yeah. Thankfully, it was not my first time on the bridge when we went there. But going there is definitely
it's a challenge,
scary. It's like, you're a island moving in a sea of ships. It's a very, you feel so helpless.
Yeah, I remember my first visual outside when I saw the fishing boats. Okay, I did call the master, and he showed me how to tackle, because it's very hard to have fishing nets with the AIS markers. You in the radar like this, you feel like, oh, they are also targets. They are targets, but you can't see them, but they are there. So while coming back from the watch, when I went to sleep, I still remember distinctly, I got a dream. Like a dream that I'm on the staircase of the bridge, and I don't want to enter the bridge. So that level of that level of fear came in the dream. And it was so real that when I woke up, and I was trying to recollect what happened. So it's just a dream. Let's go there. And how I tackled it was, again, first, I had a good master. So I could rely on him, that I can call him anytime. Secondly was that whatever I have learned in books, it's not like that in real totality. You have to improvise. So coming from education, which is very fixed, that's where my growth started off, having decisions which are, yes, according to the rule, but sometimes you have to have an improvised plan. That how do you tackle this?
You have to be ready for any situation.
Yes, flexible.
And definitely, Yes. There's a limit to what books can teach you. The books will teach you the baseline, which is your core, which is what you stick to when nothing else, when you don't know anything else. But you have to improvise. You have to continuously monitor. And rules, when you're doing anti-collision rules, there's just two vessels that you have to do. Over here, there maybe 30,
40 coming in. Anyway, sir, so from your third mate days, the first time cadetship, to becoming a master, how was did you face any emergency situations on board, like you felt now this is the end, or perhaps something like that?
I sailed for 12-13 years, so along the years there were a few situations, rough weathers, where I think there was one time in the Pacific where I think it was I don't know, it was Katrina or some storm that was there, where really we were on a car carrier, and you know how car carriers roll like pigs, basically. And everything which is not tied down is just moving all across the deck. And that's when I remember this particular moment that I was sitting in the ship's office, and basically just holding on to stuff, and I see this printer and computer and some other IT equipment just lift off next to me and fall down. And it was quite nerve-wracking. And on the bridge, there's another time where there's some cabinet has opened up and a lot of things are coming out, and it's rolling, going to one side and then going to the other side, and you're also going with it, trying to hold on to things along the way.
Like, just for context for people, like the car carriers have a very high GM, right?
Yes. And high GM, high windage area.
High windage area. So unlike container ships, which you must have seen me, the car carriers have little less stable factor, right, than the container ships. So so how did you tackle it? Like, did you go into the storm, like close to it, or
so
what
actually,
happened?
It depends on the situation, right? You do the best. The first rule is to try to avoid it as much as you can. But if you're in it, then you actually, if you go to the center of the storm, the eye of the storm, that is where it is the calmest. Yeah.
Wow,
so that is, but that's very hard to achieve. And, it's the best case scenario is to avoid it as much as you can.
Right. So how was that? Were you a second mate, third mate that time? Or?
I was a third mate,
You were a third mate. So how was the captains? You must be looking up to him, that what actions they must be taking. So how was that learning curve from that emergency?
Seen in emergency scenarios, you can never predict how anybody will respond. I've seen, the calmest of leaders who are calm in all situations. In an emergency, them panicking. And then I've seen leaders who have been in, normally they're, very scattered and very, they're not the greatest leaders, but in an emergency situation, that's where they come into their, their self, and they really control everything and follow the procedures rightly. And that's where the training comes in handy. Like, we had a fire alarm from the compressor room on a gas carrier. I was third mate, in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., the alarm rings, you don't know whether it's a real fire or what it is. You went down, mustered. The second mate, who was supposed to be donning the breathing apparatus, the fireman's outfit, he didn't show up. Right? And suddenly then, okay, I'm the backup. So I donned that, and then we went with the fireman's outfit, with the hoses and everything. We went into the compressor room. There was an electrical fire. It was not a huge fire, but the compressor, the motor room is where all the motors are, big electrical equipment. Had a short circuit, and there was some smoke and a small fire because of that.
So you had to you went and extinguished it?
Yes. We went in with the fire hose. We didn't use the fire hose because it was the electrical fire. We used the extinguisher.
Right.
But this is where, this is why we do drills every week on board the ship, is so that, it's your second nature. You don't have to, think too much, or you don't have time for, planning. It is, you do what you have learned. So, and that's why, and suddenly, the second mate who was normally there was missing. And actually, as it turned out, that he was just so fast asleep that he didn't wake up with the fire alarm.
Wow.
Which is surprising. But these things happen. This is reality. And then fortunately, as part of our training, we are also in the drills. We also simulate such scenarios where the key person or the one person who was supposed to do a particular duty was not there, and that's why you have backups.
So like you said that you had to take over in no time, go and extinguish that, come back. So I think that's the real learnings come from there after training. That's I wish it never happens.
But it's like, not a fun
it's
scenario.
Not a fun scenario.
Because these are times where really you don't know what the outcome could be, right? It is... it's not fun. It's fun. Really, there's moments where, especially in that like rough sea situation, I was a cadet that time on the car carrier, and when it was so bad, really for the first time, I was like, okay, are we going to come out from this?
Yeah.
And the truth is that these days ships' stabilities are really good. There's very, very few cases where ships are lost out at sea. So it's quite safe that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
But when you're in that situation at that point, it's quite scary.
So like coming from this situation, out of this, so you were still a third mate. Now, once I just taking a different perspective, like once you get married and you have a family, and you were there when you got married, you were at sea that time?
Yes,
like you were still up.
Yes.
So how did your perspective change about such situations when you had a responsibility back home?
It's a good question. I think, as you get older, you get more mature. You're more balanced in your thinking. When you're younger, you're a bit more risk appetite is a lot higher. So I think it's not just about getting married, but it's also a process where you're, getting older, you get more mature. When I was a third mate, there was a time where we were doing maintenance on a lifeboat. And then everyone went for coffee breaks, and the and the brakes on the lifeboat winches were not working well.
Okay.
And slowly the lifeboat went down and touched the water, and then it was bouncing with the waves. So one of the front swindle, it got disconnected. So it was just moving
turning around. Oh.
And how do you recover that, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody was afraid what to do. I volunteered.
Yeah.
We climbed down a ladder and literally jumped onto the boat.
Wow. I'm sure nobody knows this. It's the first time.
Board. But I would never do something like that. I think, maybe if I was more mature, then we would have, looked for another solution. But at that time, I was like, I got this. I was born for this.
Did you save the lifeboat itself?
You saved the lifeboat?
You saved the lifeboat. Okay, yeah. But if you were married that time, I'm sure you must have not.
Yeah, I would probably have had a different perspective.
So you're from that, like that's what the perspective. I want to ask you the change in the perspective once you have someone, like there's always someone waiting, but a lot of people are curious about what happens after marriage. Why I'm saying this, because I've seen seafarers sailing with me. They tell me once you get married, you don't want to come back at sea. Was that the case with you?
Not really. Actually, I loved sailing.
Okay.
I think, sailing is a very good career because it's very structured, and I'm saying it having experience of work to shore also. It's very structured. Everyone has a defined job. Everyone has a certificate of competency. They are trained in that particular job. So it's very clear demarcation lines, very little politics, if at all. Very clean environment. And you know how it is, a clean environment, I mean, with the onboard environment, with the people. But also, of course, with the air. External. You're going into beautiful lands, the sea, the horizon, the sunrise every morning. So it's nice to wake up at 4 a.m. and,
get
go
that
on the
first
bridge wing,
sunrise with
wait for the sunrise. It's every day is beautiful. You do your job well, which is defined, and you will succeed in this career. Ashore, things are very different, right? It's not so well defined. Anybody can be asked to do anything. There are no clear demarcation lines. There could be some politics or preferential treatment and things like that. So I loved sailing. I always, I don't know if you know this, but I left sailing. I came ashore, and then after 2 years, I went back to take command. I'd not yet. I'd left as a chief mate.
Can we pause there and let's go into that, sir?
Yeah.
When did you stop, and what did you do, and what made you come out of it to come back to sailing? What was your experience like that time?
So I was sailing, and everything was going well. I was going to get married. I'd planned my next ship. I'd planned to take my wife on board that ship, and the route and all was settled.
Yeah.
Then I got a call one day from the office, and basically it was an offer to join the office. They were starting a new LPG division in Singapore.
Okay.
And I knew that it's a good opportunity for career development. So I decided that, okay, we'll do this for 1 year and then I'll come back to sea, because I think sailing is a very good career option.
Right.
It depends on you as an individual, what you want to be, but sailing by itself is a great option. I mean, also one is the working part on board, which, as I mentioned, is, very well defined. You can set good routines. You can focus on yourself. You can pursue the things that you like to do. You have a lot of leave period.
That's the biggest factor, if I may.
Yeah.
For me to stay in this profession yet, because the leave, you can do whatever you like. So by the blessing again of the profession, I'm here sitting with you right now, and I can do this, pursue this.
Correct.
Right,
That's so true. And you have that time and also the funds to really pursue your hobbies or passions. And if you want to travel, now in a shore job over here, I mean, travel is like, okay, there's a long weekend over here. Let's try to make the most of it, where everyone else in the world is also going on that long weekend, and you have to deal with. When you're sailing, you have 3 months of leave.
Right.
You can choose to go at any time you want, any place you want. So that part is really something very attractive.
Yes. So you went to Singapore.
Yes.
You did your shore-based job over there.
Yeah.
You were a chief mate back then?
I was a chief mate when I left.
Okay. So as a chief officer, you went.
Yeah, but it was my dream. To go back and to become a captain.
Okay.
That is all our dreams when we start off as a cadet.
Absolutely.
So that was something that I felt I really wanted to achieve, and I've been fairly blessed in my career. I've done well, I believe, but I think that single achievement beats everything else. Once I made it to a captain, I was like, if I don't achieve anything else in life, I've done this one thing.
Wonderful. That's an inspiration.
That was for me fulfilling.
Right.
That I've achieved this, because how much training we go through, and how much studies we have to do. Going back.
Yeah. So
1 year extended to 2 years, but I was determined to go back.
Okay.
Going back, I think initial month or so was tough, but then you're back into the routine. So and then it's all smooth after that.
I was thinking from your perspective, like suppose I have a long study break now. When you go back after extended period at shore, is it that you forget everything, or how does it come back? Like you recollect everything like a muscle memory?
It's like driving.
Like driving.
You don't drive for 6 months, but then you get into a car, it comes back instantly. Everything falls into place very quickly. Right. The joining part is tough. And I think, for all seafarers, that joining, because you're leaving your home, you're leaving everything, that separation part is difficult. But once you're on board, then you're into routine, and, it's smooth sailing after that.
So you went back, you became a master.
Yes.
But before that, let's talk about what do you think is the toughest part about Merchant Navy?
So I think Merchant Navy has a lot of good things. It's quite known, you earn in dollars. You earn well in dollars, even compared to today's standards. You earn well in dollars. You spend in rupees. We don't pay income tax, which it's only when you come ashore that you realize, how painful that is.
Yes, absolutely.
And of course, the leave periods. I think the single most difficult thing is that you cannot be at home immediately if there's an emergency.
Right.
You cannot be there to support your loved ones. And that is, I think, the single biggest drawback. And, it's not that you cannot, but you cannot be there, soon enough. But, if your ship is in the middle of the Atlantic,
Right.
there's no way to get you off. Right. And that, I think, if you have a good support system at home, then who understand this fact, then I think it's a really great option.
Manageable then.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right, sir. So how was your feeling when you took command of your first vessel? Like, just lead us through the stepping onto the gangway to going to the master's office and taking the handover. I'm sure, like, we've not faced it, but how was it from your side? Yeah.
I mean, it is so overwhelming.
Right,
from the time that you get onto the gangway, you're still always nervous that, I hope nothing goes wrong, even before taking over.
Absolutely.
And then, you've trained for this, you've done everything, but the moment you're in those shoes and you have that responsibility on you, your brain, there are new circuits that are wired in your brain, and you start thinking of many other things, different scenarios. You're, evaluating worst case scenarios, like, what can go wrong over here, and you look at things from a different perspective. It's really amazing that how, as a chief officer, also, in taking the helm and, taking the con of the bridge and, doing berthing, unberthing. But the moment you do it as a captain, you're just thinking 5 steps ahead. Okay, what is going to happen now? And you're thinking more because of that responsibility that sits upon you.
Right.
But I think taking over was easy because you're in port and this thing. It is about doing the first maneuver.
Oh.
Because, it's like the engine movement.
Yes.
It's when you say that engine movement, then, that happens, right? But it's when you say it. If you don't say it, if you forget to say it,
nobody's taking action.
Yes. So it's really every word you say has an impact, and it could impact the safety of the people on board. It could impact the safety of the vessel, the cargo.
Right.
So there's just so much weight that is on you that you really have to be switched on, and also it helps. It's really good to have a good team, a team that trusts you and you trust them.
Right.
So it's really important to build that bond with your with the officers, engineers, crew on board, because they need to support you. Because if you forget to give that stop and movement, the ship is going straight into the breakwater.
Absolutely.
And that's where you need somebody by your side. You're saying, Cap, maybe you forgot this.
Absolutely. So teamwork. That means like you said, that if the team is strong, for the captain, it's a big plus point, right? It's a big...
but it's also the captain's responsibility to create that team, to create that trust. And if you're, involved in, politics, or you're trying to, create some... If the team is not cohesive, if they're not really loyal, if they're not really, rooting for you. I mean, when I went, I told my team that, guys, this is my first time. I need your help.
Right.
I can't do this without you. And, I am also the same as you and can make mistakes. So please, if you see something, tell me immediately. Even if it's, a wrong decision, I will still appreciate you coming up and telling me. So to create that transparency, that feedback is very important.
Beautiful. So as a master, you sailed. And then how did you reach this position where you are right now as the managing director of one of the biggest companies in the world? How did you switch over and reach here? Like, see, as a young junior officer, and I think many of my audience are still youngsters aspiring to be seafarers, or perhaps my friends only watching me, which they do watch and give me a lot of galis, but it's okay. So how do we, we are inspired by you, but how do we get a guidance of reaching to the position where you have worked yourself to?
So I think the first thing is to do your homework and to have a plan. Have a, this is my goal, this is my North Star, this is my guiding light, this is what I want to do. And then don't start off with whichever step that comes across your way. And this was never my goal, but this is what things led to. I started my career doing safety and nautical, as an assurance career ashore, as an assurance superintendent. And I used to look at, crewing as, like the HR as like the dirty part of the job, dealing with people's complaints and all that. It took me a long time to realize that, the people part is where, we spend the most amount of our money. Almost 67% of our running cost for a ship is spent on crew. And also this is the area that you can make the most impact.
Right.
And that is what gives me satisfaction, is that I can, help people. I can make an impact in their lives.
Right, sir.
So it took me a long time to understand that. So that was my journey. There are some people who come ashore and, they work for a year or something, and then they realize that this is not the career for me. I like sailing, and they go back sailing. So I think that's also, this is not that this is better than that, but it depends on, what you want in life. Do you, what is your ambitions to grow? What is your, having unlimited ambition is not the only way to live life. You also need to be content with where you are and what you're doing. So I think, like with a lot of seafarers, it's की shore job चाहिए.
हाँ, yes sir.
कुछ भी
मिल जाए.
हाँ, कुछ
भी दे दो, मुझे नहीं जाना. Yeah, really.
So I think that's where, you have to, also seafarers, being at sea for so long, they're not well versed with how to apply for a job, how to give an interview, how to, what kind of a job to apply for.
Right.
So I think that homework is really important, and to understand what is it that you want. If you go to any manager or you come to me and say, give me a shore job, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
It doesn't work like that. You have to see what is it that you are good at, what is it that you are interested in, and what is it that you're willing to do, and then look for a role that suits you. Try to train yourself for that role. So that could be, an additional education. That could be your, license. It could be some training that gives you an advantage, or gives you puts you in a position where you'd be more suited for that role.
Right, sir. So just a practical advice I wanted to ask from you. What kind of qualification post, suppose a junior, second mate, what do you think works right now? Being at that position right now, you must be seeing job applications. What stands out? What stands out for you that this guy can be called for an interview? Any particular degree, or is it like some kind of a work ex? But we don't have work ex except for sailing. So right. So it's a catch-22 situation. The company wants work ex. How can we get work ex when we have no opportunities as yet, which we have had an awareness about?
Right.
So what all qualifications did you pursue?
So I think it's not purely about qualification. So it's about, what I give advice is, when you're coming for a job interview, make a case that the person cannot refuse. So come in strong, as in, why are you the best person for this role? And that means that in your off period also, don't spend all your time traveling, although spend some of it. But use that time to develop yourself, do some trainings. I mean, now there's a plethora of online courses, trainings available, whether it's a MBA or something else. Train yourself in AI, give yourself an advantage. If you want to pursue in the technical field, go and teach at some colleges, at some maritime institutes. Get an internship somewhere, or try to talk to people, build your network.
So how do we build network? This is some question which all seafarers need to know and want to know. How do you build network? How did you do it?
So building network is not
Yes.
rocket science.
Yeah.
It is about, you sail with the captain, you keep in touch with him. You meet him for coffee once,
Right.
and then, from him, you tell him, this is what I want to do. Maybe he will know someone else, maybe he will not know someone else. But the idea is not to, I'm going to contact him only to get a job. And if he can't get me a job, then I will not be in touch with him.
Wonderfully put.
The idea is, you build your network, and somewhere something will connect this thing. And that's how I got my first job ashore, is because we had a fleet superintendent who came on board. We really connected. I stayed in touch. 2 years later, when he was in charge of the Nautical department, setting up the Nautical department for this new establishment,
Right.
he gave me a call. So it was, network is, I think,
It's underrated, I guess.
It's highly important.
It's highly, yeah.
If I'm looking for a position to fill up,
Yeah.
and someone who I trust
Yes.
comes to me and saying, this person, I know this person is really good, select him, like with the reference, basically. That makes me, 10 times more likely to hire that person as opposed to someone else. Because in an interview, you're doing an interview for half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour.
Right.
You can only gauge so much, which is their communication skills. You don't know their attitude towards work. You don't know their technical knowledge. So, but if somebody says, no, I've worked with this person before, I know this person for a long time,
Right.
This person is really good, that is an instant advantage. Because when you're interviewing someone, you're basically gambling. You don't know how they're going to turn out.
Absolutely. So, like a takeaway for me was build a good network. In your off time, gather skills, or perhaps request for an internship. Put yourself out there.
Yeah,
right.
And it could be not necessarily a technical internship at a ship management, but
Right.
You could do some charity work.
Right.
But add more, credentials
Right.
to your personality. So it's not that. What did you do in your leave period?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Absolutely.
Have something to show for that.
Absolutely.
And, even when you're on board now with the internet connections on board with
Right.
Starlink there now,
Yeah.
you can do any kind of program. So
Absolutely.
basically, when seafarers are looking, you have to do something that makes you stand out
Right.
from the others.
rest.
And that could be an MBA, but an MBA alone is not the only thing that will
Right,
get you
sir.
ahead.
So any qualifications, particularly in suppose the domain you are in, are you looking at, like, people ask for answers like, okay, you told this, now tell me if there is a qualification which I need to pursue. It's a very valid question, I agree, because there is so much out there. There's so many different types of MBA also, if I'm not wrong. So anything which, suppose somebody wants to step into the office, particularly suppose in your company, what kind of a qualification will help?
And this is where I was saying that
Yes.
what is it that you're interested in?
Right.
If you just say, I want to step in the office,
Right. Okay.
then that's very wide. But if you want to be in the HR field,
Right.
then a qualification in HR will give you, it shows your interest. It
Right.
shows that, okay, this person is willing to go the extra mile
Right, sir.
to get this job. It's not that, I'm a seafarer, I have this
Yep.
much experience, please hire me.
Right.
It's not that, but it is showing that you have taken the effort. You are really keen on this, and this is what I bring to the table.
Right.
If you want to be in, let's say, the commercial part of the business, or something which is more forward-looking, something decarbonization or something,
Right.
then that's what you need to be
Right, sir.
qualified in. But I think the main key thing is to come in with a vision. Have a plan, and doesn't mean that plan works out. It could be that you wanted to join the HR part, but there was no position available over there at that point.
Right, sir.
But that gives you, that makes you visible, and that's the other key thing. One is network, one is visibility. So make it a point that whenever you can to, if you want to come to your company's office,
Right.
come to the office. Visit people, ask them for their time, tell them,
Yep.
no agenda. I just want to understand the business a little bit more. Can I get 1 hour of your time? Meet 3-4 senior managers over there, And, trust me, that will give you results 5 times quicker than, just writing an email. Please find my CV. I'm looking for a
I'm
job.
going to tell you, my friends had requested me to put this question to you, and I'm very sure now they got their answers. I'm very 100% sure. But there was one. I did an Instagram poll yesterday, a questionnaire.
Okay.
That I'm going to be meeting you.
Okay.
So what are the questions you would like to ask him?
Okay.
So majority are students. So students were asking me that to ask you, in the recruitment, suppose in your company, the recruitment part of the new cadets, what are the particular aspects you're looking into to, recruit them in, suppose, a program which your company has? So what are you looking at as being there? Something which...
So I can tell you, because we get the cadets straight out of 12th, right? So they have no maritime knowledge, understanding, and experience. But the number one thing is what we look at is the attitude. What is kind of their perspective? Do they have a plan? What is their ambition? Do they have a vision that, okay, this is what they want to do? And it's that clarity of thought that matters more than what the actual vision is. What's really important for selecting cadets is, have they done their homework? Because that shows interest. That shows, that I'm willing to put in something extra that rather than just come in, winging it and, like I'm doing in this interview right now. No. I did some homework. But come in, do your homework, learn about the company, learn about the profession, So that shows that, okay, this person is really interested. Talk to people. If you don't have anyone to talk to, go on LinkedIn and reach out to people. You will find people.
Right.
You reach out to 20. I'm sure one will be willing to have a conversation with you.
Or watch KSN show.
That's the homework part, right?
That's the homework.
No, but
I try to solve
seriously,
that.
That is part of the homework.
Yeah, they can learn ship parts and what parts are there. So I think that's something I'm very happy about. Like you said, be content with something. I'm very content with the new guys can at least come to you, tell you, that's the forecastle, that's the bridge. And on bridge, there are radars and RPAS, because I'm trying to visually show them. So coming back to that, what do you think in the education system? It's a very critical thing which I wanted to ask you. The education system in India particularly is not the best. I would be very honest. Where have you pursued your higher degree, sir? Higher licenses in the shipping?
So I did my second mates from India.
Okay.
I did my mates and masters from UK.
UK.
And there's a very visible difference in the teaching methodology, in the assessment methodology. And we are talking about maritime education.
Yes, maritime education, particularly maritime education.
I think, in our country, maritime education has been the same for a long time. And the current DG who's come in, Shri Sham Jagannathan, he is really, taking actions, making changes, and this examination system is one of the main things that he's doing. And it includes a complete revamp of the education and examination system. So that's
good news.
Something that is really good.
That's good news for all the ones who are watching right now, including my friends who are sitting here. Yes.
But in India, especially on the examination system, there was... The examination system is designed in such a way that they're trying to find out what you don't know. And in UK, it was almost the opposite, where they're trying to find out what you do know.
Right.
So the focus is not on what you not know, but focus is on you know. So it's a very different approach.
Yes.
The teaching style is also in India or in the East. I think the teaching style is very instructor driven, whereas it's just one way that the instructor is teaching, and students are expected to just absorb. Whereas in the West, it is developed to quite an extent where it's more student led. So the instructor will give direction and guidance, but it's the students who, through their own experience, through their own knowledge, will kind of share more with each other, and it's more student led.
Right. Right.
So that's what I feel the difference
The
is.
difference. Yeah, because same. I'm like same on your trajectory as well.
Okay.
Second mates in India, doing the higher degrees outside. So
Okay.
this is something which I tried, but I found it a little bit like more of rote learning and just putting it up,
Yeah.
vomiting out there, and not learning. Being very honest, this is how it's not just maritime. I have seen throughout the Indian.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not just maritime, but just a perspective. And I'm very happy to know what you just shared with us about the DGS trying to revamp the whole
yes.
system. So that's good news for all the audience also, with the
Definitely.
young bachas also watching. Good, sir. So there was another topic which I wanted to discuss with you, which was technical aspects of shipping, how they are changing. Since you are in the core environments, people are scared of automation. It's a normal thing. Even if someone tells me your job is going to go away because AI is coming in, some company developing unmanned bridges. In your foresight and in the real aspects of what is happening in the world of automation of ships.
So
Yeah.
this is a common topic of area of concern for people who are starting their career in autonomous vessels, right? I remember since 2010-11 we were talking about autonomous cars, and I remember back then I was sure by 2020 there will be self-driving cars everywhere. It's 2024 now, and we have not really gotten to that point, or
Right.
I think it's still in a very there are still just tests running in certain fixed locations in fixed environments. So there is some time for that to come in the cars. In the airline industry, maybe you know this, and since 2006 2007 the technology has been there for fully autonomous flights,
Right.
including takeoff, cruising and landing. And yet there are no
Nowhere
aircrafts
close,
that are running without a pilot.
Right.
Right. In our industry, there are some trials going on certain scales, but it's going to take some time to mature. And I think those who are starting out their career now or for the next 10 years do not have to be concerned about the jobs. It's not going to be, a switch and then all ships are autonomous from tomorrow. It's going to be a gradual change, and it will, in effect, reduced manning is the first step. They are doing some testing now of single watchkeeper on the bridge.
Okay.
But I think all of that is very far away, because the biggest challenge on board ships we have today is the lesser number of crew.
Yeah.
So, and with newer technologies coming out, we are talking about dual fuel engines,
Right.
running on methanol, running on ammonia, running on LNG. You need more people now to run those things. So it's a ship is not like a small unit like a car or something. It's a hugely complex. It's basically a factory of sorts, or a manufacturing factory.
It's a factory. I
that
think.
is floating.
Yeah.
Right. And there are so many different machineries, and you will need people, even though engine rooms are unmanned, but you can't run without engineers.
Right.
Right. In fact, a lot of companies, they reduced a certain number of engineers on board, but now there's also a tendency to put back more crews on board because of the maritime environment,
Right.
the kind of complexity of machinery.
Right.
So I would not be concerned at all
As of moment.
as of now. As
Yeah.
of the next 10 years, I think we don't have to be worried about our jobs being taken away by autonomous.
Autonomous machineries.
Yeah.
But so, if they are coming, what kind of lead should we look into? Should we start learning about AI by our own selves, or is Maritime trying to get trainings on AI for people like us? Is there something happening?
I think everyone should learn about AI, especially like generative AI, how it can help you and people around you to be more productive with your time. So I think that's a generic advice for everyone.
Okay.
Gen AI is the biggest thing since probably Google search.
Okay. Is this Chat GPT we are talking
It
about?
is ChatGPT. Generative AI is
Right.
ChatGPT. It's one model of
Generative
AI.
AI. Okay.
But that is something that has huge potential. And I mean, we're not going to talk about it, but it's basically at the speed and volume at which it can process data. That is the essential part of it, and how we can use that in our jobs will
give us a. It can put us also in a, like you were mentioning, a skill which you can present. Suppose and suppose somebody wants to go into tech or data. If he has the AI certification, suppose, because I keep telling students that there are courses which cost only 1,000 or 2,000 rupees on Coursera or some platform.
Free courses also.
And free courses. So everything is out there, but yet I think what people are missing is direction and awareness. So coming from you, I think people will start getting awareness and sharing this on a platform. That was my aim also, to get that awareness. Where exactly are people looking at, and where can we go to get this? So that's something good. Tell me, sir, I was looking at your Instagram.
I've not been on it for a while.
I mean, but you there was something which inspired me again. It was your fitness. Like, I think you started it like lately, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, actually, around 2018-19.
And how did you come into this? Why I'm talking about this is because for me personally, fitness has been more for my mental health rather than my physical health. Was it the case with you?
So I have to go back a little bit. So around the time I started a shore job, moving from a very active life on board a ship, with a good routine and, good workout schedule. And, plus, you're not sitting on a chair and working on a computer to doing precisely that. I started putting on a lot of weight.
Okay.
And I gained, in a couple of years' time, I gained like almost 25-30 kilos.
Wow, I can't imagine this right now.
You can see. I'm sure you'll find it.
Okay, we'll put a picture somewhere if you allow it.
And and then because of that, because when you're obese, there are other challenges that come with it. But also I've had like a lot of knee trouble.
Okay.
And then I'd gotten to a point where, if I tried to climb 3 floors of stairs to get to the office, my knees were hurting. And then I was like concerned that, how am I going to play with my kids? How am I going to run around with them? So I was really at a point of no return. And then through some support of my, friends and, I started getting into a good fitness
schedule
regime, and found a very nice gym with some really good instructors, and then over the years, then I'd lost a lot of weight drastically.
It's commendable from 25-30 if you.
I've lost almost 28 kilos.
Wow.
So that's been a really.
Has it changed you as a person now?
I think obviously when you're fitter, you're mentally a lot more stronger, a lot more resilient, and you're just more confident for all scenarios. At least internally, you feel
internally
better, right? So and coming to a point where I thought I'll never run again, to 4 years later, in January this year, I ran my first full marathon at Tata Mumbai Marathon, 42 kilometers. For me, that was a greatest achievement.
And you were saying your knees were paining before that.
I had a lot of knee trouble. I'd gone to a lot of doctors. Some recommended surgery. Some recommended physiotherapy. So I'd given up on running. My friends, they started running and they kept asking me to join. I was like, no, I can't.
Right.
But then slowly, after some persuasion, I started off, and then now I run every day. I ran 11 kilometers this morning.
Wow. I'm feeling bad for myself right now. But why I wanted to speak to you about this was because, see, we have a lot of mental health awareness right now going on in our industry, and I think outside also it's a lot now.
I think in the world now mental health is becoming more of a challenge. It's also more people are comfortable speaking up about it. So that's why we hear about it more.
Right.
I think earlier also people had that, but it was just such a taboo topic. So nobody spoke about it.
Thank you for sharing it first. And secondly, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the practices which you do to keep yourself in a good mental space?
Yeah.
Do you have any practices which you follow?
So I think for me, I think fitness is really key to a good mental health, because, when I'm running, I go in, it's like meditation for me.
Right.
I go into this zone where my head clears up, and, like all the great ideas or thoughts come to my mind.
Right, sir.
It's actually also, when you're running, your body produces endorphins. Endorphins, they numb pain, they make you feel good. So it gives you a clear head.
Right.
And that really helps me. Other than that, I've also find it hugely beneficial to do some kind of meditation.
Okay.
Now, there are thousands of apps and YouTube channels which guide you on them.
Yep.
And I don't think any one is better than the other. I think what calls out to you, what resonates with you.
Right.
If it's Baba Ramdev, then sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it is, something else, I do something called, it's got a technical name, non-sleep deep rest.
Okay.
But basically it's like Yoga Nidra.
Yog Nidra.
Yes.
Yeah. Yog Nidra.
Yes.
Correct.
So
correct.
I've actually been doing this from the time that I was on board the ship also.
Wow.
It really helps me recharge, especially on those, stressful times where, you're in discharging cargo for extended periods. You have to stay awake for a long time, and, you don't get enough rest. That really helped me like recharge. And even before it was called Yoga Nidra, or
whatever,
NSDR.
Yes.
Even before that, I was doing it, and and that really helped me. But I think from a mental health perspective, what's really important is communication, is talking about it, and not just talking about it, but also having friends, having a support network. So if you are feeling not in a good space, then talk to someone about it. That will really help you. And even I'm somebody who holds up things a lot.
I think
inside.
all of us, seafarers in general, do they do this a lot? Have you seen in your friends, when I'm just taking a generalized perspective, do seafarers hold on to a lot because perhaps they're very introverts?
I think so. Because we are very when we're sailing, where our exposure is limited to our own domain. Although we do go out and visit different countries and explore cultures and things like that. But essentially, the people who we are close to are all the same kind. The same seafarers,
same thought processes.
We are very we follow procedures
to the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we follow the SMS. We follow the guidelines by IMO.
So many. I'm not
STCW.
Let's not even go there.
So that by definition that makes us that okay, this is the procedure we want to follow. And if there's something outside of that, we are hesitant to give that a shot. So I think that's where that hesitancy comes from. Also, I think in our culture in the East, it's still a bit taboo to talk about mental health.
Right.
I think it's really opening up now. I think the last 2 years have been really, a lot more people are more comfortable. And I think companies are also working towards making access to helplines and psychological support, employee assistance programs more accessible. We have started some, mental health sessions, webinars, and I was, we started this a few months ago, and I was expecting, it's a voluntary webinar, and who attends a webinar. But I was really, impressed to see. We had a huge uptake for it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So, that means people are, more open to hear about it and learn about it and create more awareness. So that is the first step, is to create awareness. What is mental health? Because most of the time, if you're going through something, you don't even know it yourself.
Absolutely. That's the biggest, I think, fall. The biggest fall is you yourself are not aware that you are in trouble.
Yeah, I can share one experience with you.
Please.
So this was in the peak of the pandemic, 2021, wave 2.
Oh,
It
the
was
beta.
April.
That very
Month
bad
of
trend,
April. I had, a long planned trek that I had gone to. I had gone to Goichala in Sikkim. It's an 11-day trek. And, that was the time that wave 2 was just coming up. I had recovered from COVID a month ago. And once we went on that trek, immediately there were no phones. So there was no information about COVID coming in. We went on that trek, beautiful setting, and it's just disconnecting completely, no contact with anyone, clean air, beautiful scenes, really refreshing. And all that was great. 11 days later, when I landed back in Delhi, and I went home, my daughter was sick at home. The cases all around had gone up to 400,000, 500,000. A lot of at work things had become really hectic. So there was just a lot of stress all around because there was uncertainty. And that was the time that unfortunately people started dying.
Yeah.
People I knew, friends of friends, and, in my circles, so it suddenly hit me really bad. And, I realized that this is a difficult situation. So I was, keeping up with my fitness and then, I didn't realize that it was, building up on me. And then something very strange happened, that I started feeling numbness on my fingers and my toes.
Oh.
And I Googled it, of course, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And the first response, the first result was something very serious, right? And I was convinced that I have that problem.
Yes.
I told my wife also that,
Yeah.
I think I have this issue. But anyway, I'll go and see a doctor. So I went to the doctor, a neurosurgeon. He did some checks and all that. And then he said, gave me some pills. I said, what is this for? He says, it's a lot of things are happening and, you're a fit guy. You can give me some tips about fitness. I said, yeah, but what are these pills for? Just don't worry about it. Just take it once a day and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And he said, you might have a little bit anxiety. And I was like, how can I have anxiety? I'm the one who is supporting everyone around me.
Right.
I'm the one who is,
Handling.
keeping it together.
Yeah.
I'm, keeping fitness and all that.
Right.
So I didn't even realize that I was under a lot of stress and it was affecting me. And
Right.
it affected me to the point where they were like physical
Symptoms happening.
symptoms that were coming up. And that's when I realized that, okay, I'm not immune to this. And it is true that there are so many things happening. And that's the time I first recognized that, it took me a few days to accept what the doctor is saying, but,
Right.
to recognize that, okay, yeah, he's right. I was under a lot of stress and, I didn't even know it myself. I was so convinced that everything is okay.
Yes. Thank you for sharing and similar experience. So that's why I could hard relate this.
Okay.
This happened while on the sea, on the ship. In fact, I've spoken about it also on my platform. No injuries, nothing has happened, but certain trigger points in my life back at home made me go into a slumber, like a pitfall. Like I didn't want to get out of it. So like a breakup or something on those things. But I thought I'm a strong man,
Yeah, that's the thing.
I am working out, gymming and doing 50 kg bench press. What is all this? I'll find someone, And because of that ego, I call it that ego problem. It became like an ego that you can do it. It's not bad. I'm not saying you can do it. You should have that strength within you. But when it exceeds, so similarly, I had started getting weird symptoms in my hands
Okay.
and my feet, and I went to the neurosurgeon. So this is like a carbon copy speaking right now.
Yeah.
I went to a neurosurgeon. He did a full scan of, I told him my back is also aching, this is also aching. And he said, okay, we'll do a test. Nothing came up. So I was like, this guy is crazy. I mean, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm feeling the pain. Like there's something happening in my fingers, in my toes, in my back. Then he gave me few pills. Same That's why I'm like, is this me talking?
Maybe it's the same doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I had those, whatever it happened, but I had to eventually take power, like go to a therapist and sort it out, because yes, I was anxious, and that's isolation made it worse out at sea. So I was not resisting that. So I had to get out of it, and then the physical pain went away.
Okay.
Yes, it was not because the pill did not go. I'm not saying pills are bad, but I had to really speak it out with someone, and realize that it's the stress and anxiety which is causing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sharing
Thanks
that.
for sharing that also. And
Yeah.
and I think there's such a reluctance, even from my side, to take therapy and to talk to a psychologist. There's so much reluctance, but
Right.
once you do it, then actually you realize that, okay, and that's what I tell, whoever I feel,
Yes.
in my teams and stuff, is that there's no harm. Give it a shot. If you don't like it, don't do it. There's no harm to trying it.
Right.
And now we have made it in our office. If somebody is, had a difficult conversation, in our line of work, we have, thousands of seafarers. Somebody, you have to have, when a seafarer is dealing with, either dealing with a family who's lost a loved one, somebody's in serious condition, it takes a lot on the part of the office colleague also, who is talking to them.
Right.
So we made it mandatory to have at least one session.
Oh, wow.
So that we take out that inhibition after that. It's process. You have to do this.
Wonderful. I think that's a good. Even for the seafarers, is it coming? Something like that is coming?
It's not mandatory,
Yeah,
but the access is there. I mean, we
access
have
is there.
multiple platforms where people can reach out for help, and I would strongly recommend it.
Yeah. On that note, I wanted just one of the last questions I had was, so people keep telling me that the old seniors on board, old captain, that मेरे टाइम पे ये होता था shipping, this was so much fun, so many things we used to do. The good old days, to go there and travel. From your experience of so many years, since I think 2000 you started, 1999, as you said. In your eyes, how has this shipping life at sea changed from your time till now? Is it for the good or bad? Yeah.
I don't think it's good or bad, but it's changed for sure. When I was a cadet, so it's like these stories, like you hear on the ship, everybody will be like, but on my last ship, this was the case. And there's also this thing about, aajkal ke bachche. Everybody is like, the generation of today. We used to work really hard. We used to know everything, but the generation of today is really bad.
Yeah.
I saw Instagram reel on this where, seniors are, talking poorly, not in maritime, but in general, talking poorly about the new generation. They don't have any morals. They don't have any ethics, and, they're not hardworking. They don't believe in, putting themselves through. They want instant gratification. So there was a reel where every generation, they traced this back, where every generation is saying that about the new generation. And they traced it back to like some 1800 something, where even at that time, people were saying that the kids of today, they don't know anything.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, that's what is, I define as the generation gap. Okay. That's what people don't know and don't understand. And, even for me, it is going to be that gap with the Gen Alpha and the Gen Zs. Yeah. But coming back to the question, there are a lot of things that have become more complex. There's a lot more regulations involved. There's a lot more adherence to rules that are required. Things have become stricter. There's more restrictions in ports. There's lesser time in ports. So there have been things that have become really more difficult from the good old days.
Yeah.
But also there are things that have become so much better.
Absolutely.
I mean, internet access is a game changer. I mean, for the first few years, we only had this Iridium satellite phones,
Iridiums, yes.
which used to cost quite a bit. But even then, people were saying in our time, we didn't. This is such a luxury now. In our time, we didn't even have this.
Iridium,
we had to go to some radio phones and all that. So, in terms of the quality of ships, accommodation spaces have, become so much better.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that have become better. There are some things that have become more difficult.
Yes.
So it's different, and for sure, but that's everywhere, right?
That's
like
everywhere.
Look at our homes over here in the last 20 years, from, having 12 channels to now, having no channels.
No
I think
channels.
you just have OTT.
OTT, yeah.
Right?
Right.
Everything is changed. And so it's the same thing on board the ship. The career has changed. The core still remains the same. The principles of shipping still remains the same. Shipping is still relevant today, and it's going to continue to be relevant. I mean, and I'm sure you said it many times, that 90% of global trade is on ships. So a lot of the things over here, 90% of it, it's highly likely that it's come on a container on a ship.
Right.
And as long as global trade is happening, shipping is going to be relevant. So it's definitely here to stay.
So, Captain Karan, are you going to go back at sea or not?
So when I quit the second time, and even then it was not my intention. I had plans ahead, and things worked out in a different way that I planned. I always had this thing at the back of my head, I want to go back to sea. I want to do that. But now it's been quite a while that I haven't been there. My COC is expired. and that's an intentional decision. Because I didn't want to have my feet in two places.
Right.
I need to make a decision. What is it that I want to do? And I chose that, this is it. It's not going back to sea. Although very often when I go back on a ship, visit a ship, I get so nostalgic, and all those memories come rushing in, and it was some great times sailing on board, which I'll cherish, and they've made me who I am today.
And I'm sure you have so much in store with you which I have not been able to extract out yet, but it was great, first of all, and thank you for agreeing to come here and speak so openly.
As I told you before, it's the honor is mine.
So, being such a busy man, which you are, thank you so much. And I'll have to call you again, because I have a foresight that you have many more experiences which are within you, which you've not shared. So it will be an honor to have you back again, sir.
Definitely, I look forward to that. Thank you, Karanvir, and again, thank you for the amazing work that you're doing. And I really don't think you know how much of an impact. Actually, I think shipping companies should be like paying you some royalty or something for the kind of positive impact that you're making on this industry. But really great.
Thank you.
And I think you should also try to get more influencers to be like you, so that we spread the word even more.
I hope I can inspire. That's the most I can do.
I know there are a lot that have been inspired.
But it's good that you've been here. So talking from your experience was very important for the public also to know, because they've just been hearing my side, a seafarer side of the story. They haven't quite heard the stories of people who've been on both the sides. So yes, sir. Any questions you have for me before we go?
Yeah, definitely. So, you've embarked on this journey on becoming an influencer, or, spreading this information, talking about this. So what's your goal in this regard?
I was speaking to my friend in that regard, Dushyant, who's sitting here yesterday, that what I want to do is I want to deeply understand the shipping technologies which are coming in, the shipping challenges which are there. Right now, I've shown a perspective as a seafarer, and people have been with me for the past 4 years. But now I want them to have knowledge from people like you, who are there, who can give more awareness of how to tackle. And thank you for bridging these gaps by coming here. So that's my only aim. And with this, while doing this, which I love, I come to meet people like you and have an interaction and learn from you. So that is where I feel content, and I can give it to my friends also, so they can also progress in their lives. So that is my only.
Excellent. Well, you're doing a fabulous job at it. So please
Thank you, sir.
continue, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So that was the very first episode on the KSN show. I hope you found some insights on how one can convert from ship to shore and what are the various drawbacks and advantages of the same. Do let me know in the comment section who all you would like to see on this platform, and don't forget to share this video because lot of awareness can be spread only by sharing. Thank you.